Growing up in a half-practicing Mormon family, my understanding of faith was as clouded as a foggy morning in San Francisco. From an early age, I was taught that faith was synonymous with good behavior and strict adherence to the laws of the church. This meant attending Sunday school, getting baptized at the tender age of 8, and abiding by a myriad of church rules that seemed more like a daunting checklist than pathways to spiritual enlightenment. In this structured environment, faith was portrayed not as a personal journey, but as a communal expectation. The principles I was taught revolved around the concept that if I was good, God would be pleased. If not, I risked divine retribution. This binary approach turned my understanding of faith into a cosmic transaction, void of personal connection or deeper spiritual meaning. The teachings I received were deeply rooted in the belief that the Mormon Church was the sole custodian of truth. This led to an understanding of faith that was inherently institutional rather than personal. I was to believe in the doctrines, prophecies, and the direction of church leaders without question. The idea of a personal, evolving faith that could grow and change was foreign to me. As I grew older, this rigid framework began to chafe. I observed devout believers around me, seemingly at peace with this structured approach, and wondered why I felt so out of place. Was my discomfort a sign of spiritual deficiency, or was there something more to this feeling of unease? The seeds of doubt were sown, marking the beginning of a profound personal struggle with the nature of faith. The crisis hit me fully during my teenage years. As I tried to reconcile the church's teachings with my personal experiences, I found myself increasingly disillusioned. The more I learned about the world, the more the black and white morality I was taught seemed oversimplified and disconnected from the complex realities of human existence. This disconnect led to a deep sense of spiritual dissonance. I began to question the very foundations of what I had been taught. Where was the loving, forgiving God in this exacting system of rules and penalties? My queries were met with pat answers that satisfied neither my intellect nor my soul. I felt like I was performing on a stage, playing a part that had been written for me, rather than living a faith that was truly my own. As doubts grew, so did my fear of eternal damnation, a fear deeply ingrained in me from an early age. This fear kept me tethered to the practices I no longer believed in, a reluctant participant in rituals that felt increasingly hollow. The emotional and spiritual turmoil of this period was overwhelming, but it also propelled me towards a critical juncture. It was during this time of spiritual upheaval that I encountered a concept that would come to redefine my entire outlook on faith. It wasn't in a church or a sacred text where I found this new perspective, but in a place I least expected. This discovery was the first step towards a journey of faith that was truly personal and deeply transformative. The turning point came unexpectedly one summer evening at a friend's house. We were discussing various philosophical ideas when the topic of faith came up. My friend, who had been raised outside any religious tradition, shared his views on faith as a personal journey rather than a set of obligatory beliefs. This perspective was a revelation to me. It suggested a form of faith that was not about adherence to dogma, but about personal growth and understanding. This conversation planted a seed in my mind. Could faith be something fluid, evolving with one's personal experiences and insights, rather than a rigid set of rules to follow? This idea was both liberating and daunting. It meant stepping away from the only concept of faith I had ever known and venturing into uncharted spiritual waters. Emboldened by this new perspective, I began to explore other religious traditions, philosophies, and even scientific ideas, seeking to understand the diverse ways in which people experience faith. This exploration was not about rejecting my upbringing, but about expanding my understanding of what faith could be. As I delved deeper, I realized that faith was not a burden imposed from the outside, but a light that could guide me from within. This understanding did not come all at once, but unfolded gradually, like the dawn dispelling the night. It was the beginning of a journey that would lead me beyond the confines of prescribed beliefs and into a deeper, more personal communion with the spiritual aspect of my existence. My exploration of faith led me to the Bible, a book I had encountered countless times in my Mormon upbringing, but one that now held a new significance. As I read its pages with fresh eyes, I was struck by the stories of individuals grappling with their faith, questioning, doubting, and ultimately finding their own paths to God. These weren't just tales of blind obedience, but narratives of struggle, surrender, and profound personal transformation. The words of the prophets resonated with a depth and urgency I had never felt before. I began to see the Bible not as a rule book dictating every aspect of my life, but as a source of wisdom, guidance, and inspiration for navigating the complexities of human existence. It offered solace in times of doubt, courage in the face of fear, and a framework for understanding my place in the grand tapestry of creation. One particular passage that resonated with me was Romans 10:17. So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. This verse suggested that faith was not something I could force or manufacture through sheer willpower, but something that blossomed from within, through encountering the living word. It was a process of opening my heart and mind to a higher truth, allowing it to take root and grow organically. This realization marked a significant shift in my understanding of faith. It was not about memorizing scriptures or adhering to a rigid set of doctrines, but about cultivating a living relationship with God through His Word. This relationship, I began to understand, was not static but dynamic, constantly evolving as I grew in my understanding of myself, the world, and the divine presence that permeated all things. Armed with this newfound understanding of faith, I began to re-examine the rituals and practices that had defined my religious upbringing. While these practices had once felt like obligatory tasks, I now approached them with a spirit of curiosity and a desire for deeper meaning. I wanted to understand the heart behind the ritual, the essence that transcended the outward form. This exploration led me to appreciate the beauty and symbolism embedded in many religious traditions. The act of prayer, for instance, became less about reciting memorized words and more about engaging in an intimate conversation with the divine. It was a space for expressing gratitude, seeking guidance, confessing shortcomings, and simply basking in the presence of something greater than myself. Similarly, acts of service, which had once felt like burdensome obligations, took on a new meaning as expressions of love and compassion. By extending a helping hand to those in need, I was participating in a tangible way in the divine work of healing and restoration. These actions, once performed out of a sense of duty, now flowed from a place of genuine love and empathy. As I delved deeper into the spiritual significance of these practices, I realized that true faith was not about blindly following rituals, but about infusing them with personal meaning and intention. It was about allowing these practices to become conduits for connecting with the divine, not just in designated spaces and times, but in every aspect of my daily life. One ordinary afternoon, while reading a book on spirituality, I stumbled upon a passage that would forever change my understanding of faith. The author, a renowned theologian, described faith with a simplicity that struck me with the force of revelation. He wrote, "Faith is not about believing something in spite of the evidence, but about choosing to live as if it were true." These words resonated deeply within me, cutting through years of theological complexities and religious dogma. It wasn't about intellectual assent to a set of doctrines, but about aligning my actions with my deepest beliefs, even in the absence of tangible proof. It was about choosing to live a life of love, compassion, and service, not because I was commanded to, but because I believed in my heart that it was the right thing to do. This simple yet profound definition liberated me from the shackles of doubt and fear that had plagued me for so long. It wasn't about having all the answers or being able to intellectually defend my beliefs, but about choosing to live in accordance with the highest truths I held within my heart. It was about embracing uncertainty, trusting in something beyond myself, and having the courage to live a life guided by love, even when faced with doubt or adversity. This realization marked a turning point in my journey of faith. It was no longer about seeking external validation or adhering to a prescribed set of rules, but about cultivating an inner compass that would guide me towards a life of meaning, purpose, and authenticity. It was about trusting the whispers of my soul and having the courage to live a life aligned with my deepest values, even when the path ahead seemed uncertain. The more I pondered the idea of living as if, the more I began to see the seeds of faith already present in my life. I had always been drawn to acts of kindness, instinctively reaching out to those in need, even when it meant sacrificing my own comfort or convenience. These actions, I realized, were not driven by a desire for recognition or reward, but by a deep-seated belief in the inherent goodness of humanity. This innate sense of empathy, I came to understand, was a seed of faith planted within me long before I could articulate it. It was a reflection of the divine spark that resides in each of us, a testament to our interconnectedness and our shared capacity for love and compassion. This realization filled me with a sense of awe and wonder, a profound appreciation for the mystery and beauty of the human spirit. As I reflected on my life, I noticed other seeds of faith that had been quietly germinating within me. My love for nature, for instance, with its awe-inspiring grandeur and intricate beauty, always filled me with a sense of peace and wonder that transcended words. This connection to the natural world, I realized, was a form of faith, a recognition of a power and presence far greater than myself. Even my passion for music, with its ability to stir the soul and evoke a wide range of emotions, spoke to a yearning for something beyond the mundane. It was a form of prayer, a way of connecting with the divine through sound and rhythm. These seemingly disparate aspects of my life, I began to see, were all threads in the tapestry of my faith, each contributing to a richer and more nuanced understanding of the divine. Section 2. The Wellspring of Experience. While scripture and personal reflection provided fertile ground for the seeds of faith to sprout, it was through personal experience that my faith truly began to blossom. Each challenge I faced, each triumph I celebrated, became an opportunity to deepen my relationship with the divine and to witness the transformative power of faith in action. One particularly challenging period in my life involved a series of personal and professional setbacks that left me feeling lost and uncertain about the future. It was during this time of darkness and despair that I turned to prayer and meditation with a newfound urgency, seeking solace and guidance from a higher power. To my surprise, I found that the more I surrendered to the unknown, the more I felt a sense of peace that surpassed all understanding. It wasn't that my problems magically disappeared, but rather that I was able to face them with a newfound strength and resilience. I learned to trust that even in the midst of uncertainty, I was not alone, and that something greater than myself was at work in my life. This experience taught me that faith is not about avoiding life's storms, but about weathering them with grace and courage. It's about trusting that even in the darkest of times, there is a light within us that cannot be extinguished. It's about embracing the unknown, knowing that even in our most difficult moments, we are held and guided by a love that knows no bounds. Section 3. Community as a Garden of Faith. As my personal journey of faith deepened, I began to realize that I was not meant to walk this path alone. I discovered the profound importance of community, of surrounding myself with fellow seekers who could offer support, encouragement, and accountability on my spiritual journey. I found solace and inspiration in the company of individuals from diverse backgrounds and faith traditions, each with their own unique perspectives and experiences. Through open and honest dialogue, we shared our doubts and fears, our hopes and aspirations, creating a safe and supportive space for spiritual growth and exploration. These gatherings were not about converting others to my way of thinking, but about fostering a sense of unity and understanding. We recognized that while our paths may differ, we were all united in our search for meaning, purpose, and connection. This shared journey created a sense of belonging and purpose that I had never experienced before. I came to appreciate the wisdom of the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In the company of fellow travelers, I found the strength to face my fears, the courage to challenge my assumptions, and the wisdom to navigate the complexities of life's journey. Together, we created a garden of faith, where our individual spirits could blossom and grow in the warmth of shared experience and mutual support. Section 1. The Rhythm of Daily Connection. As my understanding of faith matured, I realized that it wasn't just about grand gestures or profound spiritual experiences, but about cultivating a rhythm of daily connection with the divine. It was about weaving faith into the very fabric of my life, transforming ordinary moments into opportunities for gratitude, reflection, and growth. One of the most transformative practices I incorporated into my daily routine was that of morning meditation. Each day, before the demands of the world encroached upon my thoughts, I would find a quiet space, close my eyes, and simply focus on my breath. This simple act of stillness, of quieting the incessant chatter of my mind, allowed me to connect with a deeper sense of peace and presence. As I sat in stillness, I would often reflect on a passage of Scripture, allowing the words to wash over me, seeking guidance and inspiration for the day ahead. Other times, I would simply express gratitude for the blessings in my life, acknowledging the abundance that surrounded me, even in the midst of challenges. This daily practice of meditation became a spiritual anchor, grounding me in the present moment, reminding me that even amidst the busyness of life, there was a source of peace and strength available to me. It was a time for me to connect with the divine, to listen for the whispers of my soul, and to align my heart and mind with a higher purpose. Navigating the valleys of doubt. The journey of faith, I soon discovered, was not always a smooth and easy path. There were times when doubts crept in, threatening to derail my newfound sense of peace and certainty. During these periods of spiritual dryness, it felt as if God were distant, my prayers unanswered, my faith hanging by a thread. One such period coincided with a time of significant loss and grief in my life. The death of a loved one shook me to my core, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew about life, death, and the nature of God. How could a loving God allow such suffering? Where was the justice in such a senseless loss? During this dark night of the soul, I found myself wrestling with my faith, questioning everything I had come to believe. Yet even in my doubt and despair, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, a presence that remained, even when I couldn't feel it. It was during this time that I learned the true meaning of faith, not as the absence of doubt, but as the courage to keep seeking, even when the answers seemed elusive. I sought solace in the words of others who had walked this path before me, finding comfort in the Psalms of David, with their raw and honest expressions of doubt, anger, and despair. I realized that it was okay to not have all the answers, to rail against the injustices of the world, to question even the very existence of God. It was in these moments of vulnerability, of acknowledging my own brokenness, that I felt a deeper sense of connection to the divine. The fruits of a living faith. As I continued on my journey of faith, I began to notice subtle yet profound changes taking place within me. The seeds of love, compassion, and forgiveness that had been planted began to bear fruit, transforming not only my inner world but also my interactions with others. I found myself more patient and understanding, more forgiving of myself and others. The petty annoyances that had once consumed my thoughts no longer held the same power over me. I was learning to let go of the need to control, to surrender to the flow of life, trusting that even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, there was a divine order unfolding. My relationships deepened as I allowed myself to be more vulnerable, more open to giving and receiving love. I began to see the divine spark in everyone I encountered, recognizing that we were all on a shared journey, each of us carrying our own unique burdens and blessings. The fruits of my faith were not always outwardly visible, but they were no less real. There was a quiet confidence that permeated my being, a deep-seated sense of peace that transcended circumstances. I had found a source of strength and resilience that sustained me through life's inevitable challenges, a wellspring of hope that nourished my soul and inspired me to live a life of purpose and meaning. The transformation within. The most remarkable aspect of this journey of faith was not the external changes it brought about, but the transformation that unfolded within the depths of my being. It was as if a light had been switched on in a previously darkened room, illuminating corners of my soul I hadn't known existed. This inner illumination wasn't about achieving some kind of spiritual perfection, but about embracing the fullness of who I was, flaws and all. I began to see my imperfections, my weaknesses, and my vulnerabilities not as things to be hidden or ashamed of, but as integral parts of my human experience. These were the cracks in my armor, the places where the light of grace could shine through, reminding me that I was loved and accepted, not because of my accomplishments or my adherence to a set of rules, but simply because I was. This newfound self-acceptance brought with it a sense of freedom I had never known before, I was no longer bound by the need to prove myself, to earn love or approval, or to conform to the expectations of others. I was free to be myself, to embrace my uniqueness, and to live a life that was authentically my own. This inner transformation was not a one-time event, but an ongoing process, a continual unfolding of my true nature. There were still times when old patterns of self-doubt and insecurity would resurface, but now I had the tools and the awareness to navigate these challenges with greater grace and compassion. I was learning to befriend myself, to embrace the fullness of who I was, and to trust in the transformative power of love. As my inner world shifted, so too did my interactions with the world around me. The love and compassion that had been cultivated within me began to flow outwards, finding expression in my relationships, my work, and my engagement with the wider community. It wasn't that I had suddenly become some kind of saint, but rather that I was learning to see the world through the lens of love. I found myself more attuned to the needs of others, more willing to lend a helping hand, more forgiving of mistakes and shortcomings. Simple acts of kindness, once performed out of a sense of duty or obligation, now flowed effortlessly from a place of genuine care and concern. I was discovering that true joy came not from self-gratification, but from being a conduit for love and healing in the world. This love in action wasn't limited to grand gestures or heroic acts of self-sacrifice. It was woven into the fabric of my daily life. In the way I listened to a friend in need, in the patience I showed a frustrated colleague, in the small acts of service I performed for my family and community. It was in these seemingly insignificant moments that I felt most connected to my faith, most aligned with my purpose. I came to realize that faith wasn't just a set of beliefs or a system of rituals, but a way of being in the world, a way of living that reflected the love, grace, and compassion I had experienced in my own life. It was about extending that same love and grace to others, recognizing that we are all connected, all part of something far greater than ourselves. The journey of faith, I've come to understand, is not a destination, but a lifelong adventure. There will be times of great joy and moments of profound sorrow, periods of doubt and uncertainty, and seasons of deep peace and clarity. Through it all, faith is the compass that guides us, the anchor that holds us steady, and the light that illuminates the path ahead. It's not about having all the answers or living a life free from pain or difficulty. It's about embracing the unknown, trusting in something beyond ourselves, and having the courage to keep seeking, even when the way forward seems unclear. It's about choosing love, even in the face of fear, and extending grace, even when it's difficult. My faith has been tested time and again, challenged by personal struggles, shaken by world events, and refined through the crucible of experience. Yet through it all, it has endured, not because I've clung to it with rigid certainty, but because I've allowed it to evolve and grow alongside me. It's a faith that's rooted in love, grounded in grace, and open to the mysteries of life. It's a faith that sustains me in times of adversity, inspires me to live a life of purpose, and connects me to something far greater than myself. It's a faith that's still being written, one step at a time, one day at a time. Looking back on this transformative journey of faith, I am filled with a profound sense of gratitude for the twists and turns that have led me to this place of peace and understanding. It has been a journey of letting go, of preconceived notions, of limiting beliefs, of the need to control. It has been a process of stripping away layers, of shedding old skins, of emerging into the fullness of who I was created to be. The path has not always been easy, but it has always been illuminated by a love that knows no bounds, a grace that covers a multitude of sins, and a hope that whispers of a future filled with purpose and meaning. This faith, I've discovered, is not a static destination, but a dynamic journey, an ongoing conversation with the divine, a dance between surrender and discovery. It's a journey that requires us to step outside our comfort zones, to question our assumptions, to embrace uncertainty, and to trust in something beyond what we can see or fully comprehend. It's a journey that invites us to live with open hearts and open minds, to seek truth wherever it may be found, and to allow ourselves to be transformed by the experiences that life throws our way. As I continue on this path, I am filled with a sense of joyful anticipation for what lies ahead. I know there will be challenges to face, lessons to be learned, and moments of both profound joy and deep sorrow. Yet I embrace it all, knowing that every experience, every encounter, every twist and turn is an opportunity for growth, for transformation, for drawing closer to the heart of God. If you find yourself resonating with the experiences shared in these pages, if you too are on a journey of seeking and questioning, of yearning for something more, know that you are not alone. Millions have walked this path before you, and millions more are walking it alongside you right now. Reach out, connect, share your story, and allow yourself to be supported by the collective wisdom and experience of those who have gone before. The journey of faith is a deeply personal one, but it doesn't have to be a solitary one. Find a community that nourishes your soul, a spiritual practice that sustains you, and a way of living that reflects the love and compassion you hold within your heart. Trust your intuition. Listen to the whispers of your soul, and have the courage to follow where they lead. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to doubt, to wrestle with your beliefs. It is often in these moments of uncertainty that we experience the greatest growth. Embrace the unknown, trust in the process, and allow yourself to be surprised by the beauty and wonder that unfold when you open your heart to the possibility of something more. The journey of faith is a lifelong adventure filled with twists and turns, peaks and valleys, moments of profound joy and seasons of deep sorrow. Embrace it all, for it is in the fullness of our human experience that we discover the depth and richness of the divine. May your journey be filled with love, grace, and the unwavering belief that you are never alone.